Okay, we are going live. Okay, looks like we are live. Thank you for being here on this Thursday. And maybe many of you are on vacation or about to go on vacation. I can imagine, so maybe not too many people will be here. Or maybe you're watching me from vacation, in which case, welcome to all. And yes, happy Thursday, happy Thirsty Thursday. Yes, I've had adult beverages on the Thursday. It's probably my only day that I actually have adult beverages right before the broadcast. So happy to have you here tonight. And again, for those of you who come into the broadcast not understanding the live stream format is 30 minutes of whatever the topic is, and then we switch gears at the 30-minute mark and I answer your question. So if you don't want to stay beyond the 30 minutes, you don't have to. So just so you know, it's kind of free form after that. So it may be relevant to you, it may not be, so you decide. But don't come to me and say your videos are too long, because it's not sucking too long. It's a way for me to get feedback from you. And today, I'd like to get more feedback up front, like early on, not waiting till the last moment here to get feedback, because I'm not understanding something here. So I have, we're at coming into 364,000 subscribers as of right now. And it's going to be interesting to count how many of the 364,000, at least as of the time of this broadcast, how many of you actually change phones? Because I know from the number of people who bought my phones, there's other suppliers, obviously. You can buy phones from many other places, but I'm probably the number one promoter of changing phones in the whole YouTube space. And so I'm wondering how much attention people are paying to it, because, and I'll explain why. I'm not sure there's any actual option. So I'm just curious here, and we'll do a kind of a little survey here. Do all Braxman phones require Wi-Fi to work? No, the Wi-Fi, the Brax 2 phones requires Wi-Fi to set up. So you have to go somewhere with Wi-Fi to set it up. I'll research about changing that, but the problem is if you don't have Wi-Fi and it disconnects, I think there's a worse effect. So it's better to just go somewhere with Wi-Fi instead of leaving it without Wi-Fi and just relying on cell data. There may be more dangers with that. Now, other operating systems like Lineage OS does not require Wi-Fi. So if you get a Pixel, for example, that does not require Wi-Fi. However, you can't hardly update anything. It doesn't allow a major update like Brax 2. So that's a difference. So, and we'll talk about that too. So anyway, I'm just curious here, and let me just wait before I ask the question. We'll wait for more people to show up. But that's the kind of the mystery of the day is I am certain that of the 364,000 subscribers that I don't even know if 1% of you have changed phones. Maybe 1%. So yeah, maybe 1%, maybe 2%, but I don't understand what is not clear or what I'm not getting across, because it's very interesting. Now I don't know. What we're going to do is ask you guys, at least for the live stream, if the live stream people are composed of people with a higher percentage of non-normie phones. I don't know. We'll find out, but we'll see. We'll see what the numbers are in a moment, but not yet. We'll wait till a little later. You have a Brax 2 phone. So, and I have other phone models. I mean, there's doesn't have to be a Brax 2. It could be Pixel 4s, Pixel 4As, Pixel 5s. and those are also very nice phones. But I'm just wondering what is not being understood. So is this a poll yet? No, not the poll will be. I'm going to hold the poll later when there are more people in here. So there's 125 of you. So we'll get the poll going a little later. But let's just ask this question. Well, I'm not going to seek an answer, but I'm sure that a good chunk of you, could be half of you or more, here in the U.S. have iPhones. And yeah, a big chunk of you have iPhones. And I used to have an iPhone. In fact, at one point I was fond of iPhones. And there's an actual group. There is a video on email setup. I don't know what you're saying. There is a video on email setup. When you sign up for email, there is a video. It shows you how to do it on Thunderbird, so it already exists. I made it on time for once, formerly 007. Yay! Okay, so I'm going to guess, and this is we'll do the actual survey a little later, but in my estimation, just because I know many of you, I'm going to guess that half of you, maybe more than half of you, are on iPhones. So I made many videos on iPhones. So it's out on Reddit, who are very anti-Rob Braxman. They're very anti-Rob Braxman, but what is interesting about this group is not only do they promote a specific kind of OS, most of them are on iPhones. So obviously they didn't watch the video, or I don't actually understand, what it is that they're not convinced about, and we'll figure it out. Maybe I need to explain the video a little bit better. But after explaining what the iPhone does, I can't imagine anyone wanting to still be on an iPhone. I just can't imagine. Many people are saying, oh, it's the most secure system. Secure is, inappropriate term, because everything can be very secure, but very non-private. And an iPhone is an example of that, and I'm not even sure it's secure. If you don't recall, my friends, the Pegasus attack, one of the few actual hacks, repeatable hacks of phones, actually occur on iPhones. The Pegasus attack is not publicized because perhaps there's a limitation of what it can do on Android, but most of the Pegasus attacks have been on iPhones. The supposedly secure system is being attacked on iPhones, and Apple says it's secure, but they can't do anything about it. They don't even know exactly how it is that people are breaking into iPhones. They said it's from iMessage, and I have other doubts, like because the likely entry point to any of these to any phone is using the baseband modem. So yes, one of the false promises of the iPhone is that it's more secure, and that in fact is proven to be false. In fact, nowadays I would actually say Android is more secure than iPhones. The security, talking security only, not privacy here. The security in iPhones is actually on Android is actually pretty robust, with SE Linux and all that. It's actually pretty hard to break into a phone. And many of you actually come to me and say, my phone has been hacked, and I have to honestly doubt you, because unless you're a government agent or government target, the average hacker does not have the ability to take over your phone. Besides, hackers don't take over phones. They steal the data quietly. That's what they do. They steal the data quietly. They don't go around and advertise by going to your phone and taking over your screen while you're using it. That is not the methodology of a hacker. The methodology of a hacker is to quietly look at what you're doing and do it elsewhere without you knowing. So, yeah. Now, there is a way to do remote control of your phone. Yeah, there's a way to do that, both on iPhone and Android, but it requires an app. In fact, you can pay for the app. if you install the app, if you know the password to the phone, yeah, you can install the app, and which you can easily detect. And if you have the app installed, you can take over the phone. That's actually, a legit way that, for example, exes, an ex-spouse can actually gift a phone or an iPad to a child and put remote control software on there to actually spy on the household. That actually does occur. And the answer, of course, is very simple. Just do a ducking reset. Because when you reset, you remove all of that. And then you examine all the apps. If there's any strange app, you delete it. So it's that simple. It's not really that complicated, because on a reset, they're not going to survive unless it's one of those hacks at the very, very upper level of state level attacks, in which case no one's safe. But the average person isn't going to be attacked by that. Somebody will say, well, my ex-husband is attacking me on my phone. And I'm going to say, are you a government target? No one's going to waste their time on the average person on that kind of attack. The most that people will do is to install the spying software and hand it to you, so it's going to be fairly obvious to spot it. But no one's going to, I hate to admit to this, because it just subjects me to attacks, but I've never actually been hacked. So if there's a target, it's me. But interestingly, I haven't been hacked. So maybe because I'm much more careful. You can send me a bunch of emails and I'll probably ignore you. So can't hear me. Okay, is that true? Obviously I'm transmitting audio here just fine. So I don't really think that. 99% is only 1 in 100. That's terrible. Oh, you're talking about who has changed their phones. So anyway, so a lot of you are big believers in the iPhones, even though the iPhones, and I'm concentrating on iPhones for half of this, because I don't know why you would want a phone that tracks you even when the power is off. It's the only device in existence can do mesh networks, that can track you through the mesh network, that can track you when the phone is off, that can track the content directly, can see what kind of stuff you have on your phone, can see your nude photos. Yeah, the AI is looking at it. Yeah, no person looking at it directly. The AI says, "Oh, there's nude photos on this phone." And you have a phone like that, and like, suck that. Suck that. I mean, what about the content? Well, this person has such and such political content on his phone. That's none of their sucking business. And yet you have an iPhone that actually is very well equipped to spot that, and it's the only phone that can do that. Actually, an Android can't do that. So an Android is going to spot you through what you do on Google. So Google is a little different here, okay? Now Google is kind of a big picture thing. You use Gmail, you use Google Drive, Google Photos, Google Docs, and then you're using Gmail, and you're using YouTube, and you're using search, and just to name a few, maybe Waze and any number of other things, but just to start with that. And obviously Google knows everything you're thinking. I mean, you provide it with locations, with your YouTube watches, your search activity, your Google Assistant searches, even your search through an iPhone with Siri, that goes to Google. So so Google knows what you're asking Siri about. Apple knows what you're asking Siri about, and you guys are like saying, "Oh, that doesn't bother me." Well, it's kind of weird, because why are you in this channel? Yeah, it's time for me to get my typical 50 unsubs when I do a live stream. But it's really, really weird that you accept that. Why would you accept that? One of our followers here, subscribers, Terry, will often, kind of chide people here on making comments, because he said, well, you talk the talk, but you don't want to make any moves. And that is, in fact, seems to be the reality, that most of you don't make the moves. And the basic move is that you need to really consider what you do with your phone, since 80% of the tracking occurs on the phone. 80%. Simply changing the phone and using a computer, you've pretty much eliminated. Let's say you go with the Google phone, a Linux phone, a Braxton phone, a Calyx OS phone, whatever, a Lineage OS phone, all without Google. You disappear from Google. You disappear. 80% of your data disappears. 80%. 80%. I mean, can you imagine? We're complaining about privacy, and here's a chance with one move to eliminate 80% of the spyware. 80%. And all you have to do is change phones. So I'm like wondering what's holding people back. What's holding people back? And don't tell me it's expense, because a Braxton phone is a fraction of an iPhone. And I sell, phones from 300 plus bucks to they start at near 400. It's a fraction of a cost of an iPhone at 1200. So I'm not understanding this. It's not even a cost issue per se. And there are even ways to go cheaper by getting your own phone, maybe getting a more used phone and having me put the software on there. But I don't really understand what's holding you back, when 99% of you, likely maybe 98% of you, are still not thinking about changing phones, or at least you think about it, but you don't want to make any moves. Here's the other part. Some of you consider changing phones, but you can't get rid of Google, Apple, Instagram, Facebook. You can't step away from that. So you listen to me, but this guy's talking, and it sounds dangerous, and I think this is important, but you don't make any move because you don't want to make anything that's inconvenient. I don't get that. At what point do you say that our actual freedoms are controlled by those zucking phones? And by a simple move, if 10% of the population make a move to say, oh, I'm going to not rely on my phones. I'm not even saying dump the phone, just not rely on it. I'm going to use computers. Do you know how much data they lose when you don't use a phone if you use computers? I'm telling you, 80% of their data disappears. Location tracking, all of that is on the phone. IMEI tracking, cross-device tracking, all that emanates from your Google ID or your Apple ID on the phone. Without that, they can't match a lot of stuff. They can't actually tell much about your life, except for the limited access to the browser data, which is limited because the browser doesn't have direct access to machine identifiers. What about satellite phones? You got it willing to go outside? Well, satellite phones are great because there's no internet. You're just using it for voice calls, but not sure why do you need to do that? Don't you need just a regular phone? So we're going to do a little survey here, since we have over 200 people here now. I'd like to know, just so that I can get a percentage here, who among you have changed phones to a safe phone, and who among you have not? So here's how we're going to do this. So number one, you have a safe phone. Number two, we'll do 0 for those that did not go to a safe phone. So 1, you have a safe phone, meaning a Google phone of some sort, or Linux phone, or a flip phone even that doesn't have any internet. Or 0 means you haven't done anything. So I'd like to get a percentage here. So 1 means yes in binary, is that you made a right move. 0 means you haven't done any move. And I just want to see the percentages. So far it's half here. Okay, so far it's like a little bit more than half, at least in this batch here. Now it's growing to be more of the nose. Yeah, look at that. More and more of you, and of course, being in the live stream, you're a particular set of people. The people on the live stream tend to be more gung-ho on the issue, and so you're not the rest of the people who are watching elsewhere. But I'm going to say the zeros are winning slightly here. You can guess yourself, but I'm thinking the zeros are winning. So yeah. So zeros are winning. You don't have to say you plan to. I'm just curious about where you are now. So I'm going to say zeros are winning. It's not like 99% zero, but it's yeah. So it's not 99% zero, but maybe 60% zero, meaning you haven't changed phones. So, and again, the people who go to the live streams are more of the active group, and that's really interesting. Now, just keep pumping the numbers in there, so I can get a better sense. And then what I like to ask next is maybe get an idea of what's holding you back. And well, let me just keep answering this question for now, while I think about how to ask this question, as far as what's holding you back. How do we do that? Maybe you're held back by cost. That could be one reason. Thank you, Brian. Maybe another reason could be you're not understanding yet the value, and maybe 3, you're thinking about it. Let's do that. So that's let's work it out in numbers. So number 1 is you don't want to make the move because of cost. Number 2, you haven't really seen the benefit yet. Number 3, you're in between. You're thinking about it. Okay, so let me repeat that again. 1 is cost. 2 is you don't see the benefit yet, and 3, you're thinking about it. And then we'll see how that looks. What is number 4? I don't know what 4 is. 4 is other. Okay. So let's see. A lot of you are saying cost. 3 are thinking about it. Some are not completely thinking about it. Okay. So a lot of undecideds, meaning thinking about it like, I'm thinking about it, but I haven't made a move yet. Interesting. 4 is other. You don't, the reasons, later on you'll tell me what the 4s are. 4 is other, and then maybe you'll tell me what it is that's bothering you. So there is an app I need to work for work. Okay. Yeah, there's an answer to that. There's an app you need for work. 3 and 4. YouTube live chat has a poll feature. I don't know how to use that, but this is good. It's more interactive. I mean, I'd rather like see you make the comment directly. It's more exciting that way. Not tech savvy. Okay, you don't have to be tech savvy to use a phone. My finances. Well, that's 1. It's possible to do high-end phones like Samsung Galaxy. Well, a Pixel 5, Pixel 6, those are high-end phones. 5A. So you can buy a new phone, Pixel 5A, Pixel 6, that's new. You can buy last year's model, which is a few months old. It's Pixel 5. They're high-end phones. They're still pretty expensive. So they are, they are available. The Brax 2 phone is on the cheap side, inexpensive side at $400 with shipping. And yeah, So, yeah, so it's not, there's no actual cost reason here. Not paranoid? Okay, so that's yeah, you're just not a big believer. So I would say you're not convinced. That's two. You don't have to buy my phone. I'm not pushing any phone here. I'm more curious about the numbers. There's other solutions. It doesn't have to come from me. In fact, you can flash your own phones. So some of you can do it yourself. So you don't need to talk to me about it. But yeah, it's interesting. Now, some of you didn't have a specific reason. I'd like to know what. Of course we ship overseas, but again, I'm not pushing anything in this broadcast. I'm not like pushing any. I'm more understanding. Since I told you that 80% of the risk in privacy is related to the phone. 80%. That's a pretty massive number. Okay? Pretty massive number. Now, the technicalities of what it's actually doing, I explained in other videos. But 80% of the tracking is on the phone. In fact, if I just convince some of you to say, let me do more of my computing on a computer. If I just convince some of you to say, maybe I will use my existing phone less. Maybe I turn it off when I'm not using it. Maybe if you use your phone less, you're actually achieving something there, and you use a computer more. Maybe you should all think about buying a computer for Christmas. Yeah, something to consider. A computer is a bigger screen, and many computers are pretty nice. I don't even care what type you get. I mean, obviously the best option for you is to get a Linux computer, but if you can't get one of those, it's okay that the tracking is limited on a computer. Like I said, 80% of it occurs on a phone. The location trackers and all that doesn't exist on a computer because there are no sensors. A computer doesn't have sensors. So the sensor tracking, this is, guys, since most of you, not necessarily this group here, because 60% of you are on don't have a safe phone, but 40% of you do. But 99% of my subscribers obviously do not have a safe phone, and yet they watch this channel and they're wondering what the solution is, and they're ignoring it. But it's interesting how you can actually shut down the likes of Google by just leaving their mobile platform. That's enough to shut them down. If 10% of the population decided, I'm not going to use a mobile device from Google or Apple, that will shut them down. That's huge. That's huge. That'll have a big impact on marketing and so on. They can't do proper polling. They can't get a good sense of opinions. It will shut them down, even politically. It will have. Is it hard to learn Linux? No. In fact, that should be a nice video. I'm using Pop OS, and I frankly am. It's having an easy time with Pop OS. I have various Linux computers, but I decided to go mainstream with a ultralight because I wanted a light computer. I have a big computer that I use for videos, but I wanted a light computer for everyday use. So I got a Dell XPS 13, and the Dell XPS 13 is running Linux Pop OS. It's a little bit better than Sandbox Google. Do not zucking sandbox anything. If you're sandboxing Google Play, it has to be on a computer, not on a phone. If you're sandboxing it on a somewhere else, and you have your Google ID, so I don't know what you're hiding there. You still have a Google ID. I'm using Solus. It's an independent Linux system. That's fine. That's good. I used to use Ubuntu. I used to use Ubuntu too. I switched to Pop OS, and it's very nice. I don't have any problem with Pop OS. There's some little quirks sometimes, but not enough to affect me in a big way. It's sometimes you have a need to do something different, But for the most part, I found that for the normal use that I put it through, my needs are satisfied with Pop! OS. So anyway, that's interesting survey here. We're out of time for this section. We'll continue in the next section here. We can keep going, but on the same topic, but we're just gonna cut it off at the 30-minute mark, because the conclusion is that 60% of you here in this live stream have not changed phones, and the live stream, as you know, is a much more active, privacy-oriented population. So before I continue on, let me just briefly stop and tell you about my sponsor. My sponsor is Linode. So not just, you know, your own computer for personal use, but many of you want to have a server, you want a website, you want something for your company, you want private communications, and there are many answers to that. For example, you can set up a private XMPP server as an example, which if you were a company and you needed that, you could actually bypass all these public stuff where somebody has access to your data and use your own communications platform that only you have access to using something like XMPP. And you can set it up on a Linode for some cheap price a month, like, you know, $5 to $10 a month. You can actually set up your own XMPP server and people can communicate in your office for in a safe way without using email, with end-to-end encryption built into something like XMPP. And you can do that on Linode. In fact, you can pick one of their apps, and there's an app there for doing that. I run an XMPP server for you also that's free. You can use that. And it's running on Linode. Linode is my favorite cloud platform, cloud provider. They are hands down the cheapest and the best tech support. And yes, they were purchased by Akamai lately, but nothing has changed. They've been providing with good service. Still, prices have not changed. And so I still push them as a very, very good option. So that's Linode. And if you use the code linode.com/Rob Braxman, they'll give you a $200 credit that you can apply for 2 months. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you can, you know, actually for 2 months you can play for free, since you can even get a large server and test on small and large servers with a $200 credit. Yeah, you'll save money. Okay, now somebody mentioned this, and it's interesting to study this, because some of you say, well, I use my phone for work, and because I use my phone for work, I got to have a phone with certain apps, and I need access to Google Docs and all that because it's needed for work. Okay, granted. Okay, that's legit, because, you know, you got to use it because you need to make a living. I don't see why you couldn't have a second phone, though. So Google will follow you and track you on your business phone. But if they're tracking you on your business phone, they don't know what your thoughts are on your private life if you use a different phone for private dealings. Because you don't want Google to know what you're thinking. It doesn't matter that they know what your job is, because they already know it, because if you've been using it already. It doesn't matter what iPhone knows what your job is, because again, they already have a history. But if you stop giving it data to other things, including what you do in your off hours and so on, and you turn off your phone when it's not business time, yeah, I have a standard iPhone 10. The last time I bought an iPhone was an iPhone 10, and it's off. I have a standard backup Android, which I need to use for YouTube, to give me access on a phone if I need it for two-factor authentication, as I have explained in many videos, and it's off. So what does Google track when it's off? Well, obviously nothing. I mean, yeah, they can track you. They say, well, we have your Google ID. We're tracking you on the phone. Well, the phone is off, so what are they getting? So it's not actually, you know, especially if you have an old phone, like, you know, you have a few-year-old iPhone 10, which is, still a pretty nice phone. What exactly is the problem? Why is Brax OS or Lineage better than a... that's a banned word here, Brian. Banned word. But the answer for you, Brian, is you can use whatever you want to use. You can use whatever you want to use. However, you will find that some operating systems are more restrictive because they don't give you micro G, Aurora Store, and all that. They're really made to be a more restrictive platform, which I don't believe is necessary to gain privacy. All you need is to limit the identity. And for that, even a Lineage OS is fine. Brax OS is actually pretty secure. But otherwise, you're arguing about the topic of security versus privacy. And for that, there's no difference. They may argue in some OSs about some features related to security. It's an argument. I don't necessarily buy that. But they may argue that certain things are better on their whatever because of better security. But you will realize that it has nothing to do with privacy. For privacy, it's just fine. And for me, the more important thing is usability. If a phone is not usable because you put too many restrictions to it, people will not use it. So I don't have a restrictive phone. My phones that I distribute to you guys, you can run most apps, 90% of them. Whereas those other operating systems are not made to run those apps. They're made to be locked down. Otherwise, you lose the supposed benefits of them because they're locked down. So that's the explanation of that. Thank you, Dom. Thank you, Dom. And so thank you, Brian Williamson. Thank you so much. So anyway, that's the answer. This is a privacy channel, so we don't need to belabor the security. For example, the certain groups, especially the group that Brian mentioned, are very fond of iPhones. So they may promote whatever they promote, but the fact of the matter is most of them use iPhones. So that should tell you what their thinking is. And their actual understanding is that iPhones are more secure, which is, I told you it's already wrong. But they believe that iPhone, I mean, they basically, it's like a little group that everyone just they think of themselves as geniuses, so they push each other with, into a single thought, like groupthink, and they all follow it, and they think, oh, we're so great that we all believe in the same thing, and iPhones are great. And so it's like saying you should go to this operating system or you should go to iPhones. Well, if you're promoting an iPhone, then you're already zucked up in my mind. So no, iPhone is not. Normie phones are bad. Any normie phone, whether it be an iPhone or anything Google, Android, is not good. Anything that does not have any Google, it is good. I don't care what it is. I don't have to have a very restrictive phone because as long as you've nipped the identity question in the bud, there really isn't anything that Google can do to you. Now, this is very important. Once you nip the identity issue in the bud, there is just nothing that Google can. They may track you all day. It doesn't matter. They have trackers. They have whatever. If they don't know who it is, it's not going to help Google. Google needs an identity. Otherwise, that's how they do Google Analytics and all that. It's matched to an identity. When you don't have an identity, what else do you need to do? Do you need to not use Netflix, not use Prime Video, not use Amazon Kindle? Do you need to be restricting yourself in that way? I don't believe so, because once you knock the identity issue out, who cares? I'd say utilize their platform silently. Utilize it. It costs them money. They can't fight back because they don't know who you are. That's our way to fight back. Use their resources, but they get no benefit. They get no benefit if you don't give them an identity. That's all it is. You don't need any magic, super secure, this and that nonsense. It doesn't matter. No, it is not bad. There's nothing bad about any platform. There's nothing bad about any platform that is de-Googled. Nothing bad at all. You can certainly use them. But I'm not going to push it because they're all equal in my eyes. They do the same thing. They achieve privacy because the main issue is to knock out the identity. And all AOSP without gaps knock out identity. You don't need to go further. That's enough. You can be as, you can have apps that you can use. And, they say that certain apps, certain phone models with certain OSs can't be hacked. This is actually something they believe, which is false. Okay? New Pipe is a non-tracking YouTube. Right, but, obviously 364,000 of you are subscribed. Therefore, you're logged in. So, 364 of you choose to log in. Some of you, 72,000 of you are on Odyssey. Maybe you're not logged in. What is it? Is it 77,000 of you are on Odyssey? So, and I appreciate that. I mean, that's a good number of people on my channel in both places. 72,000 of you are on Brax.me, as far as I know. So, and most of that are recent, like in the last 2 years. So, I used to have just like 10,000 people on Brax.me, and now we're up in the 70,000 range. 72,000. Brax 3. So the next, there's no Brax 3, but Brax 2 OS has just been updated on all the phone models. But there's another model of Brax 2. It's the same, but it will have registered IMEIs, and that's going to be released probably at the beginning of August, so it's a few weeks away. So yeah, I'll probably get stock at the end of the month, and that's really more for people using Verizon and people who have problems with their carrier, because this will be registered. But that's only 2%. 98% of the people who get a Brax phone don't have an issue. It's just 2%. So the 2%, that'll solve that. So I'll be selling both, the unregistered IMEI and the one with the registered IMEI. Will YouTube via Aurora work same on Brax lineage? YouTube does not work. Any Google app cannot be installed, Brian, on any de-Googled phone. Any. It doesn't matter which OS. None of them will support any Google, because the foundational software, in order for Google apps to work, and this is why you stop the spyware basically. It's not just a YouTube app. So there's a YouTube app, there's Gmail app, and all these apps that you would want to install. That's a Google Play Store app. They all need something called Google Services, which is really the spyware that's built into the OS. Okay, the Google services are in the background, are like libraries of functions put in by Google away from the standard AOSP. So the standard open source Android, they replace many of the code with the Google versions. And once it's embedded in there, you can't take it out. There's no way to take it out. So basically, if you have a Google Android, there's a de-Googled Android, if you're using AOSP in any kind of a way, there is no way to install any Google app. It won't work because it says no Google services. Therefore, it will not work. So you cannot use anything Google. So you can't really screw up, is what I'm saying. You can't screw up. Can you run Google? Yes, you can run Google on a browser. So you can still use a browser. Let's say you go on Brave browser on the phone. Brave is the standard one we install now on Brax OS. And you can run even YouTube on there with logged in, or run Gmail on there logged in. Yes, it will track you. It will track you. But here's the good news. The only thing they can track is the IP address. They can't get the IMEI. They can't get the identifier off the phone because they don't know for sure which phone it is. And because of that, they don't know exactly who you are. It's not 100% identity. So for that reason, they can't really use it to pinpoint what you're doing as a with an advertising profile. They can't actually do that. And that's one of the values is even if you do that, even if you use YouTube or any site on a browser, that even the information they can get is limited. Yes, it's bad, but it's more limited. Thank you, Prince Carmon. Prince Carmon. So does Brax 2 not have micro G? Brax 2 comes with micro G embedded in the OS itself. So it's in the system section. So you don't find the actual app in the open. It's part of the operating system. You go to system and it's on there. So you don't need to touch that. It's already pre-configured for you. So Brax OS comes with micro G as a system app, Aurora Store as a system app, and I'll do a video explaining that. When you use YouTube on a browser on a phone, it's obviously still dangerous, but when you clear cookies on the browser, the tracking stops. So hopefully you use it only once in a while, and then you clear the cookies and you disappear again. So, Rob, 2 phones safer than dual SIM? No. Either or, although it's probably more confusing for the opposition to have 2 phones. The dual SIM is if you have a de-Googled phone, it doesn't matter if you have dual SIM or 2 separate phones because they can't get the IMEI either way. So they actually don't know if it's 1 phone or 2 phones. So that's one of the advantages of de-Googled. Nobody knows what the phone is, which one it is. There could be many similar phones and they can't tell which one. For example, you may not know it, but there's a lot of Brax 2 phones out there now. So I've sold a lot of Brax 2 phones. So if you have a Brax 2 phone, then there's many others with the same phone, so no one can actually know. Some of you even have my VPN, so many of you even have the same IP address. So it's no longer clear even, with the user agent on a Brax 2 phone, which by the way is generic, to know exactly what the phone is. Thank you, friends, Carmen, again. So browser isolation also for those things. Browser isolation you should do on a computer, and it's better if you limit your Google use on a phone. Just limit Google use on a phone. But I guess there's worse things that you can do. And again, it's not the information that Google can get on a phone, on a browser is fairly limited. It's not as good as the information with location. Like for example, they can't get the 24/7 location tracking and all that they get on a standard Android phone. They can't get that on the Google phone. So they have such limited information. Mostly it's just IP address. Why not use proxy chains approach to obfuscate source device? I don't know which proxy chain you're talking about, because proxy chains are actually, the hacker version of that is illegal, because in order to get the proxy chain, they're bots. So you hack a bunch of, that's what hackers do. They hack a bunch of computers and they make a proxy chain. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to go suggest to you to use something that's illegal. Maybe, do you know who used proxy chain? Was John McAfee. And, I didn't use the word proxy chain with him, but he understood what I said. I said, whatever you're using, because he doesn't use a VPN, he uses that. And I said, you're using something else, I know. And that's illegal in the U.S. And he said, yeah, but I'm not in the U.S. Not that he cared about illegality at the time. But I interviewed McAfee, and that was one of the questions I had. So yeah, he did use proxy chains, I'm certain. But some people are proud and they actually blurt out, I use proxy chains. So you're announcing that you're a criminal hacker. Don't ever talk about it. If you're using it, don't ever say it. Don't admit it in public. So I'm not gonna tell you. I don't need to use a proxy chain. I'm happy with my VPN. What happens if I stop Googling on my Android phone? It doesn't matter because your phone is a Google phone, so that everything you do on the phone is tracked with telemetry, with the IMEI, with your location. You can't take it off. There's no way to take it off. You're logged into your Google phone. They know exactly who you are. And you say, oh, I better log out. But you were the last person logged in. So that's end of story. You're done. Start Page is a good browser for privacy with Ubuntu and a VPN. Start Page is not a browser. Start Page is a search engine. How much do you deadlift? 0. I don't work out in any kind of a way. I just go sailing. I'm not a workout kind of guy. I work out my brain. You're making a ton of YouTube money. I don't make hardly any YouTube money. You can see that my the algorithm doesn't like me anymore. So no, I am not making a ton of anything. I do not make a lot of YouTube money. I don't make a lot of money. What do you think about email security? What do you think about email security? What email security? Email is not the best to use. So if I were you, I'd find some other way of communicating. Use email as kind of a transition thing and say, let me transition from using email to something else. So you communicate with, let's say, somebody you know and say, why don't we go to XMPP, which is my favorite. Why don't we talk in Jitsi? You know, it's free. Jit.c. Meet.jit.c. It's free. It's awesome. No identity. You just go in there and talk. There's no identity. It's free. XMPP, free. I offer a free server you can use. xmpp.brax.live. And when you test it and you say, okay, this is fine, you can set up your own. And then you can even be more private. I'm freezing. Let me see how my signal is. Signal is good right this moment. Maybe it dropped while I was, it looks good. No, Slack is not good for anything. Well, what is the benefit of Slack? You think you have any kind of privacy with Slack? No, it's the whole point of Slack is openness. Do you know who used Slack? The reason Slack came to be was from people in the press. They wanted to be able to search for what people said in the past, so they can go search for articles. Has anybody ever done an article on John McAfee? So they can go search, and Slack will provide that. So why would you want that? That's not a privacy option. I'm making heavy-duty Brax phone covers and would like to send you one. You don't have to send me one, Kevin Davis. You can send. Oh, I guess I can show it. Yeah, that's great. That's great. I didn't know it was easy to make a cover, a heavy-duty. That was fantastic if somebody makes covers. Signal is good for me. Signal's fine. Can you hardwire instead of Wi-Fi? No, not on a phone. No. Don't use a phone. If you're not going to use Wi-Fi, don't use a phone. Can I use Microsoft Office and most websites on Linux? I believe you can. As far as Microsoft Office, I don't use Microsoft Office, but I believe you can. And all websites work on Linux. That doesn't make any difference. You can use Chrome, you can use Brave, you can use Firefox. They all work on Linux. There's no difference. It's the same thing. You missed a super chat from Mitch. Question, do you recommend fingerprint spoofing? No, there's no need. Fingerprint is just a capacitance check. It's not, they don't take your fingerprint and send it to, some authority. It's a measure of capacitance, and you can't actually derive a fingerprint from it. So that doesn't really, it's not really a fear. I don't have to worry about fingerprint on a phone. That's not nothing to worry about. It's just, again, it's a mathematical value. When you put your fingerprint on it, it gives a number. And it's the level of capacitance. Hardline USB 3. Mike L., most phones need a feature called OTG, on the go, for that to work. and I know for sure that the Brax phone doesn't have OTG. The Pixel phones may, but Pixel phones may. But why are you using a phone? Why not just run a Android emulator on a PC? Why do you even need the phone? You can use an Android emulator on a PC. I think he might be talking about fingerprinting through a browser. Fingerprinting through a browser? You mean device fingerprinting? That's not like your actual fingerprint. I will eventually do this and kick Apple out of my life. I can start by relying on my iPhone less and less. Yes, I'm just asking a question. I'm not making you all feel bad if you're still stuck on the iPhone. But you need to start thinking about a computer. So, does Wi-Fi give off locations? Even if you don't use Wi-Fi, if Wi-Fi is enabled, it will give out a location for using Wi-Fi triangulation. Privacy chat site again is XMPP is the protocol. Like on an Android, the app, I preload the app Conversations. That's the app you can use on a... there's many apps that allow XMPP, and what you need is an app and then a server to provide the communications. Hold on, signal's bad. Hold on. Signal dropped there. Okay, let me repeat what I just said. Okay, so XMPP is a protocol. It's not an app. So you need an app to do private conversations. So one of the apps you can use is called Conversations on Android. On iPhone, you can use an example as Monal. There's some other ones. I can't remember the name right now. On a PC, you can use Gajim. 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 Somebody can type that. And Gajim works on Mac, PCs, Linux, Windows. So if you have an app like that, you just need a server. So some companies like Conversations will offer a paid server, and if you want to support them, you can use that. I offer a free server. It's called xmpp.brax.live, and you can specify that on your Conversations and go set up an account and then specify the name of the server, and then it's end-to-end encrypted. There's no metadata, no phone number, no nothing. I can't imagine anything better than a product that does not have any kind of metadata. The similar app for video is Jitsi, jit.c, si, and meet.jit.c is the site, and it's completely metadata free videos. That's pretty awesome. It's free. It's metadata free. You don't need to set up an account. There's no accounts, so you just give a link, and the link is active, and there you go. End of story. And it's private, and there's no metadata. I mean, I don't know what to say. Why is Linux better than Windows for privacy? Because Windows has spyware. Windows has spyware that is built in there to track you as telemetry and all that. You can turn a lot of it off, most of it off, you can. But Linux doesn't have any of that. Linux is open source. Most things on Linux are open source. And because of that, you're never afraid that somebody's spying on you, because they can't. The source code is exposed on Linux. Linux is much better. So I use Linux for the most part. 99% of the time I'm on Linux. So I have to use other things because I got to do other things, but I spend most of my time on Linux. My favorite OS right now is Pop OS. So yeah, so Jitsi is great, and it's Zakta Zoom. Why are you using Zoom? Why are you using Zoom? That's nonsense. Why do you use Zoom when you don't even have to log in with Jitsi? You just pass a link and that's active immediately. You don't even need to do anything. It works on all your devices. You pass a link to everyone and say, meet you on here, and they click on the link. You're there. There's no logging in, set up an account, none of that. You don't even have to download anything. There's nothing. You just click on it. It just works. Okay? It just works. Is it Canada Day, Sean? Linux is better than Windows for privacy, but sadly most apps works on Windows. So most I don't have any more issues. I use open source software only, pretty much. I don't even use Microsoft Office. I don't use any of that. And to be honest, I'm not. Yeah, I shouldn't make a video about that, just to tell you about my experience. But I just not missing anything. I was a long time Microsoft user for so long, since I was a VAR for Microsoft. Microsoft used to invite me all the time to Redmond, and and now I've nothing Microsoft. Well, I do. I have a Microsoft Windows computer that I use for running Adobe Premiere Pro, but that's about the only thing I do on it. So for the moment that I'm editing a video, I'm going to use that, but other than that, I don't use it. Pardon the multiple super chats, but is there any recommendations for the Google phones for beginners? All the phones that I sell are made for beginners. There's nothing complicated about the Google phone. They're just Android. The only thing you need to think about when you have a Google phone is you can't run any Google apps. That's the number one thing. The number two thing is that some apps do not work. 10%, 90% of apps work of any sort. The ones mostly that don't work are the ones that require some sort of payment. So if it's a paid app, you can't run it because there's no way to do payment. Oh, I got the little prompt now to insert an ad. This is funny. Okay, we're gonna do this now. This is so funny, and some of you see the ad, so we're gonna trigger this. And then you tell me what you see. It's funny. YouTube is telling me to pop an ad, so I'm gonna just see what ad do you see on there. Hater one thinks you are safer in a cell phone. How can you be safer in a cell phone? How is that possible? Maybe you're misunderstanding what is being said. I don't know. I don't have any contact with the hated one, but I don't even know who he is. So no, you are much safer on a computer. Trust me, you're safer on a computer. No ad yet. No ad here. I got X time ad video. Not all of you get the ad. Insurance, you use Chrome. No ad. You just cancel the ad. Use premium. Well, you're not going to see the ad. Yeah. So anyway, if anybody's promoting using a phone and it's not de-Googled, well, it can't be safe. It just can't be. It's impossible. That's what Google wants you to do. If Google had its way, we'll all be like, embedded with a cell phone chip in our brain. I don't get paid from ad. I don't care. Click it off. I don't care. I don't. If you all click on the ad, how much money am I going to make? 10 cents? It's any Google OS is fine. I'm not going to tell you one the Google OS is better than the other. They're all fine to me. For privacy, they're fine. Vice VPN, no ads. Yeah, that can block it. Yes. So, Conversations XMPP app is not free on Android. Conversations is on F-Droid. It's free on F-Droid. Why do you have to buy it on Android? Get it on F-Droid. It's free on F-Droid. I install it free on F-Droid. Otherwise, pay them. have them make money. It's not a problem. Micro G is essential to a de-Googled phone. If you don't have Micro G, you basically lose the common functionality of common apps because you don't get notifications. So if you're interested in getting notifications, you need Micro G. That's basically the main benefit of Micro G's notifications. But you're getting Micro G notifications anonymously, meaning it's funneled through, the identity is funneled through Micro G. So it's not direct to you. So Micro G is awesome. I hope they keep maintaining that project. It's very important. We would be zucked if we don't have Micro G. YouTube app on F-Droid. I don't know of any YouTube app on F-Droid. Is that even real? Maybe a browser. So then you just use the browser. You don't need any YouTube app you don't want that. I've just wanted to make sure you don't advise against. I have it. Oh, you mean a different OS? No, I don't advise against any. You can use any of them. Just don't have them make a claim that say this is better than such and such, and yours is. Some of them will say, "Oh, whatever you do is wrong, and ours is better." That's just groupthink that just bugs me. For privacy reasons, all of them are good. They're fine. Just don't have them believe. Don't believe when they say, "Well, some things are not fine." I say, "Zuck you." They're all fine. If you want to use X, you want to use Calyx, that's fine. You want to use Copperhead, that's fine. You want to use, I don't know all the other versions, Brax OS, Linux OS, all that's fine. They're all fine. Now some are much more restrictive than others. I don't believe Calyx is restrictive. Linux is definitely not restrictive. Some have better security things. For example, Brax OS is better. Calyx is better on security things. Lineage has some little communications with Google, like supl@google.com. Is it serious? No. If you actually know what it is, then it's like, who cares? Again, some of these claims by some of these people, it just boggles the mind. If you don't have an identity on the phone, it doesn't matter if your phone is communicating with Google all day if they don't know who you are. And that's the most important thing. Can you stop Google from knowing the phone? And yes, so the Google phone does that. Do you need to worry about Google sneaking in, and doing XYZ on Micro G or whatever, even anonymously? Well, it doesn't matter because it's anonymous. Okay? Cubes OS is Linux, and which is obviously a very secure operating system if you can install it. It's the reason Cubes OS is very hard to install is because the virtualization, because it runs in a VM, the virtualization is hardware specific. So if the hardware is incompatible, it doesn't work. See, Google doesn't, but others do. Okay, Cubes OS isn't for beginners. So Cubes OS, because of that hardware limitation, works on so few computers, which is kind of a pain. And for that reason, I don't really like to use it. Why do I prefer Pop OS? Well, Pop OS does not have the, Ubuntu does the tracking of users, which is not a big deal, really, to be honest with you. But I just like the interface better. Pop OS is prettier, in my mind. It's based on Ubuntu anyway. So it's Ubuntu based, but it's prettier. So it's, to me, it's easier to use. So for that reason, yeah. The other one that's easy to use is Zorin. The problem with Zorin is it has some display problems on my particular computer. I'm running a Dell XPS. Can't you access Google Play without logging in on the OS that shall not be named? No, you cannot. So Brian, on a Google phone, you have to use the Aurora Store, which is not installed on those operating systems. On ours, they're pre-installed. Aurora Store is the spoofing Google Play Store. You cannot run a Google Play Store without all the Google code. So the only way to do it is to have a spoofer, and Aurora Store is the spoofer. Okay. How to protect my new YouTube channel? Just use laptop. Yes, Blue Angel, which is mostly what I do. They'll ask you to, have a phone for 2FA, and so I have one, but it's off. So get an old phone, dedicated to Google, Android, but leave it off, and make sure it's an old phone so you don't waste money on it, and then have something else safer like the Google phone, and then do every interaction on a browser. On my next video, I'll explain in more detail. So Aurora Store is a spoofer. So it's basically Google Play Store in a spoofing mode. So because it's spoofing, it doesn't know who you are unless you log in. There's an option to log in with Google, and you don't want that. I must try Pop OS. Yes, you should try Pop OS. In my examination of different distros, I think that for beginning users, you would like Pop OS and Zorin as the pretty one. Some people like Mint as well. So I don't think you're going to go wrong with Mint. I didn't like the Mint interface as well, but some people like it. So Mint, Pop OS, Zorin, they're very, very friendly looking Linux OSs, so you're not going to be so scared looking at them. Aurora Store is the Google Play Store spoofer. F-Droid is its own store. Now, F-Droid is very specific. Again, maybe I need a refresher video on this, so this may be one of my upcoming videos. F-Droid works very differently. F-Droid works very differently. In order to get listed on F-Droid, you have to give your source code to the F-Droid people. Then they compile the code for you. So you only give them source. You never give them the finished product. They package it for you. For that reason, you're exposed. You can't hide anything because they see everything. And if they want to, they can go examine your code and see if you're doing anything bad. For that reason, F-Droid is safer. So if you have a choice, for example, conversations can be bought on Android. On Google Play Store. You can get it from F-Droid. Well, obviously F-Droid is better. You can get Brave from. Not Brave. Well, never mind. We don't want to use DuckDuckGo, but DuckDuckGo was one of the only browsers available on F-Droid, and it was safe, at least from a coding point of view, on F-Droid because the source code was open. The problem with DuckDuckGo is they censor. So for that reason, I don't like to use DuckDuckGo anymore. MX Linux is really great also. Yeah, I didn't like the performance of MX Linux. It's a little lighter, but it wasn't the fastest running on mine. So Pop OS was fairly fast and pretty. So F-Droid, so what you do is, if there's an app that you're looking for, see if there's an option on F-Droid first before you jump into Google Play Store using Aurora. Now, one of the things that you need to consider here is when you're looking at apps, at apps that you can get from both F-Droid and Google Play Store via Aurora, is that wherever you got the app originally is going to be different than the one you get from Google Play Store. They're packaged differently. So, for example, if you use conversations from F-Droid and you try to update it with conversations from Google Play Store or Aurora Store, it won't work because they're for two different sources, and you're going to get an error. And so some people also get that error when they're running Signal. So, for example, on mine, the Signal that we use comes directly from the signal.org site, signal.org/Android/APK. That's where we download Signal. We don't get it from the store. So if you, yeah, so don't be scared when you see an error and say, well, we can't update it from here. It's because you got to match where you got it originally. That's part of the security. It's just, some behavior that you got to be familiar with. Have you read the write-up, A Brief and Informal Analysis of F-Droid Security? No, I have not read it, but anyway, that's how F-Droid runs. I did a video on F-Droid long ago, but F-Droid, that's one of the reasons I have not been able to put Braxme on F-Droid, is because I have to rewrite it, and then I have to make it, available to F-Droid. But since Braxme is a web app, there's not really a lot of code outside of the web app. It's not compatible with F-Droid, and so I would have to rewrite that portion, and I just haven't had time. So that's the only reason I haven't put it on F-Droid, because the web app model is just not compatible, and I haven't had time to rewrite it. You're currently shipping Brax 2 to Australia. Yes, many has been. I've shipped many to Australia, and shipping seems to be working normally now. So it used to be I required express, but it looks like it's getting there. So I don't know what Droidify is. Why do you have to rewrite Braxme? No, for F-Droid. To do F-Droid, you have to give them the source code. But the source code as you know, Braxme is open source anyway. But the compatibility layer from Android web app to F-Droid, I was using a library for something else, and it's not compatible anymore. So I have to create a new framework for it that is compatible with F-Droid, and I just don't have time to rewrite that. So for that reason, I don't bother. But you can you can use the APK directly even from the Braxme site. You don't even have to take it from any store, and it will run. I'm desperate to get off my iPhone, but I need to reassure me Brax 2 will work in Australia. Brax 2 works in Australia just fine. I haven't had any problems with Brax 2 in Australia. Most of the issues with Brax 2 have been in the US. I don't know of anyone that's had issues with Brax 2 outside of the US, and I've sold a good number of them outside, because Brax 2 is an international phone. So I haven't had any issues outside. Now, if you have any doubts, either in the US or outside, about Brax 2, don't worry. I have Pixel, so I can, if you don't like it, say, can I change it to a Pixel? And I might give you a more expensive Pixel. Depends on what I have in stock. Which VPN is best? Obviously mine, Melodia Bytes VPN, which is on my store on Braxme. Some of the games don't like it when I play them through a VPN. Is it a risk to privacy to play my games on raw internet? Not necessarily, Mad Cow. If you're not running any other app, probably not. Just, turn off the other apps. Not necessarily. Cell data is not in itself a problem either. Most of the problem is with Wi-Fi. If you're using cell data, you don't need a VPN necessarily. I use Braxme on my older Nougat phone. Very slow. That's probably due to the frame rate eroded on. No, if it's slow, then probably not enough memory to load it, and a slow internet combined, because it's a web app. Web app, there's no data on the phone. Everything is on the site. So all I need to do is buy Braxme standalone without any other items like routers, etc. Yes, that's correct, sweet monk. Yeah. If you get a safe phone like a Brax 2, a Lineage OS, flash your own, I don't care which one you use, 80% of your privacy becomes safe. It's that simple. I don't even have to explain much. It just becomes safer. Australia now examining every data packet from citizen devices via deep packet inspection. They've been doing that, Mr. Wright. They've been doing that. I sold routers in Australia, and I actually connected to it, and they were doing proxy servers. They were proxy serving from the device. This is hard coded in the Telstra router, and you couldn't even stop it with a VPN. They were, because they were done in hardware, and they were spying on the content from the Telstra modem. This is why Telstra sucks. The Telstra hardware had a proxy server. Australia is getting into the most dangerous side of spyware here. So if you're in Australia, you need to protect yourself. Do you own digital fiat? I do, but we're not going to talk about that here because YouTube doesn't want me to talk about it. Raspberry Pi 400 is just a cover. We can't even get any Raspberry Pis. So why do you need a Raspberry Pi 400 when you can't even get a Raspberry Pi? So Raspberry Pi 400 is just to turn it into a little laptop. So yeah. So if you can get a Raspberry Pi, it's worth talking about, but you can't get one. So yes, Michael, they put the spyware on the hardware, which is on the outer layer of the transport, which means there's no way to avoid it, even with a VPN, because the VPN is in a lower layer. So the upper layer, the highest level layer, or the lowest level, I guess the lowest level layer, but the encapsulating layer of spying is from everything that happens on the Telstra modem goes into a proxy server. Even if you use Tor, it ignored all that because the connection is in hardware. Zuck. That's Australia for you. That's Australia for you. So Australia is, yes, it's turning to be the worst surveillance country from the nation point of view. The U.S. is the worst country from big tech point of view, but from a national point of view, not sure what's worse, Saudi Arabia or Australia. That's a toss-up. So I don't know if Saudi Arabia is worse. Probably Australia is worse. So, okay, we're running out of time. Thank you, Cosmic Rose. We have 8 minutes left. So, you were right about 20K BTC. Oh, it's going to go lower. Come on, guys. Be ready. You think 20K BTC is the lowest? Nah. It's going to go lower. But we can't talk about it on YouTube. Can't talk about it on YouTube. Why do Australians buy these deep packet inspection routers then? They don't know any better. When it's sold to you by Telstra, and Telstra is your only provider where you are, then you're zucked. Because depending on the area, so, some areas they only give you Telstra. So yeah, you're going to be zucked. It's really bad. And they don't give you any options, and the internet in Australia is really bad anyway. Because they don't believe video was going to happen. This is how backward Australia is. They actually didn't think, oh, this is a large country. We're fine with text data. I don't think we're going to do video on YouTube. We're not going to do live streaming. So people doing live streaming from Australia always have a problem. So, yep. Have you migrated your calendar over the Proton system yet? Have you migrated your calendar? What calendar are we talking about? I don't have a calendar. I've nothing to rhyme with BTC will bottom again. Yeah, I actually believe the economy will tank here first. So we got to survive when it tanks. So yeah, when it tanks, it's going to drop big, and then we'll recover. But in the meantime, there will be a big drop. Yeah, I see that coming. I would tell people, they were saying buy BTC. It's 30. It's a bargain because it used to be 70. No, I said no, 20. I looked at it 20, but then now that it touched 20, I'm saying no. If it touched 20, it's going to go lower. Maybe do 15. Maybe look at 15. Maybe 12. I don't know. So get ready for that. So yeah, I do believe that there may be a recession. Yes. So it's it's my gut feel. Let's see if anything changes. But right now, that's what I feel. So yeah. So maybe not the time to buy a house. So if you're like saying, I'm thinking about buying a house. If you wait a little bit, maybe it'll go down. You might get a discount. So I'd sooner put all my money in candy floss. No, there's a reason to put it in crypto at the right time. Groceries jumped 35%. I say that's called inflation. How can we evade in Australia? Well, obviously you start making your data less accessible by having safer phones, for one. To all my countrymen, have a great Canada Day. Okay, thank you, Sean. How can let's see, time to keep a bit of extra liquidity on the sidelines? Yes, that's true. In regards to tech, how can we recession-proof ourselves? Just don't make any big moves. Don't make any big purchases thinking you're flush with cash. Just have cash. No big moves. Small moves are fine. Big moves, maybe you wait. You wait. So, do you accept crypto as payment for hardware? You talk to us and Brax me. We don't want to state that here. So, yeah. So, didn't they set up a data network over ham in Cali, Colombia? I don't know where Cali is. Yes, it's called the Ardennes Network. In fact, I have that video where we set up a data network using ham. Yes, I have it set up. I have an antenna outside. The signal is not great because there's not enough entities that help me boost the signal. So I have to go connect to something 38 miles away. So it's a little bit difficult to get a good signal. But yes, it's called Ardennes, AREDN. The Amateur Radio Emergency Data Network. I think that's what it is. And I have a video on that, and it's using ham radio. Yeah, there's some mesh network equivalents like LoRa. What do you call that? LoRa has a mesh. LoRa Meshtastic. LoRa Meshtastic. So if you have a little community, like you have a bunch of preppers in a community, you can use LoRa Meshtastic. Open source way of communicating short distances. It's for community, like a family. You don't have to rely on the grid. So it doesn't work really for most of us because there's not you have to have a large group of people with LoRa Meshtastic. So that's why I didn't make a video on it, because I'm trying to think of practical sense. Probably better to use ham radio. So I forgot to tell you in the last minute here. Yes, I did field day on ham radio. I was on the air for hours and hours, and signals was bad because the bands were closed. It was very hard to find anybody to talk to. Nobody could hear me. I could barely hear people, and but I did do field day. I didn't do a video because it was kind of frustrating because they were like so hard to make contacts. I made many contacts. Not many. I made many attempts at contacts, and some contacts didn't even give me their call sign. So didn't work out too well. So, but yes, I did field day. So in case people think that I don't do field day, I do field day, and participated in field day on ham radio. So thank you so much, guys, and I hope you have a nice holiday this July 4th if you're in the U.S. and are doing something pleasant outside. And I'm not giving you depressing information today. And have a great holiday. We'll probably do some of these beginner videos on what I discussed here today in this live stream in as a future video. F-Droid, Aurora Store, Micro G, so on and so forth. That stuff, I'll be talking about that in a video. Thank you guys. Good night, and see you next video and next live stream next week. Bye bye.